what Reuters reported. We know that yesterday, Donald Trump, last night, by the way, last night, he announced Project Freedom. And he said that he's going to escort the ships to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. And today we've learned from Reuters that Iran fired two anti ballistic missiles as a warning at the USS Canberra, is LCS 30 in the Persian Gulf. It was this morning.
Mm-hmm.
What is happening in the Strait of Hormuz, Larry?
Hey, Iran's got it shut down, and the United States is trying to figure out if he can get it open, which he can't. But that's that's what it's saying. I'm looking up a picture of the USS Canberra. Yeah, so it's listed as a heavy cruiser, or a guided missile cruiser.
It's some kind of destroyer, or
yeah, it's a little smaller than a destroyer, but it is so this guided missile. Normally, these are attached to a carrier strike group. Now, you got to look at the deck configuration that has these vertical launch systems. So it's like tubes that are in the deck of the ship. Those have to be preloaded before that ship sailed out of, came out of Norfolk or wherever. They loaded the missiles in, and they had at that point to make a choice. Do we load offensive missiles or defensive missiles? Do we load missiles like a Tomahawk, or do we load something like a PAC-3? It uses a different kind, but a missile for air defense. So it's not like they got to sea and yesterday decided, hey, we're going to load you up to go with offensive missiles. No, this has to be done in advance. So that's what I mean. When you consider that if they're putting these kinds of ships into the Strait of Hormuz, equipped with rockets or missiles that are offensive in nature, this was planned in advance. This is not a last minute thing. This wasn't they just decided to do this. They've been planning to do this. And I think that's an important distinction.
Yeah. The other incident today was the attack. It's some sort of attack on a South Korean ship. I don't know where it was. It seems that it was at some of these ports in the UAE, and they wanted to do something there, or to.
Are you referring to the oil tanker? Was it called Anco or something like that?
Yeah, they call it. It's from a company, South Korean company, HMM. It's called HMM, and the company itself, they put out a note. They're saying a fire broke out on a cargo ship belonging to a Korean ship company. They're saying that it's not yet clear whether the fire was caused by an attack or an internal fire. But the other reports show it was some sort of attack by drones or maybe missiles.
Mm-hmm.
And here is the reality. Here is what IRGC put out today. And they're talking about the blockade, this zone that the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz is happening, the regime, the new mechanism defined by Iranians.
Mm-hmm.
It goes all the other, you look at the right side, the line, that yellow line on the right side, it goes to the Fujairah, one of the important ports of the UAE to export oil.
Mm-hmm.
Not only Fujairah, it's Horfakan as well. Two important points when it comes to the exports of the UAE. It seems that Iran is controlling the whole area. And that South Korean ship was in this area, close to the UAE, and that's why they got hit, because they were somehow, crossing the red lines defined by the new mechanism in the, Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah. No, this is Iran is definitely challenging the United States back, and the United States, they don't have a plan. Or whatever plan they have, I would question that it can. There is no successful plan. Let me put it that way. Because to fully open, what do we mean when we say open the Strait of Hormuz? that a ship can transit that strait without fear of getting blown up or hit by a missile. Okay? So you have to eliminate the ability of Iran to put any mines out there, to have any underwater drones, to have any mini submarines with torpedoes, to have any maritime drones that are on top of the water, to have any fast boats with a crew which can launch missiles against a ship, to have aerial drones, to have coastal defense cruise missiles, and to have ballistic missiles, both short range, intermediate range ballistic missiles. Boy, that's that's what you call a multi-layered system for defending that strait. And to take that out, to ensure that they couldn't fire a missile at you, would mean that you'd have to penetrate 150 miles into Iran at least, to caves and underground cities where they could launch those missiles from. So there is no simple way to do this. And so that's why, when Trump's talking about, we're gonna send in the Navy to open it up. What's the Navy going to do other than provide a big fat target for the Iranians to hit?
Yeah. Following the escalations today, Larry, the United States is saying right now the rules of engagement for U.S. forces in the region being changed to strike immediate threat against ships that cross the strait, like IRGC fast boats and Iranian missile positions. And this is the new, do you consider it as a new escalation, and we are somehow gradually getting there?
Yeah, I mean, this is a bit of a ruse by Trump. He declared on Friday that the end of hostilities, we've won the war, and claiming that this is not just a pause, but that they've won the war. That was Operation Epic Fury. That's over. But now we got this Operation Project Freedom. That's new. So, just changing the name of it doesn't necessarily change what all your military forces are there to do. Think through the practicality of, unless the United States pre-coordinates the movement of ships that are stuck there in the Persian Gulf right now, it's going to be difficult for it to have to get on scene in a timely manner. So let's say they're sitting there at Al Dhafra Air Force Base, south of Dubai, and call comes in that Iran is boarding a ship, a tanker just north of the Strait of Hormuz. So you got to scramble the jets, fly out there, get the location, and then what do? If they boarded a ship, you're not going to bomb the ship, because you're doing the Iranians' work for them, if you will. In fact, Iran's not trying to destroy the ship; they're trying to just take control of it and its cargo or its crew. So this is going to be very difficult in practice for the United States to actually be effective in even taking on Iranian gunboats. I don't, unless they've got sort of a permanent drone loitering above. But my understanding is Iran now has some pretty good countermeasures to that, could shoot it down. So this is, operating just 12 miles, 12 to 30 miles off the Iran's coast doesn't give the United States a very good cushion.
The other reports, Larry, show multiple U.S. Air Force refuelers they're seen above the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman, refueling U.S. fighter jets to enforce the new engagement rules, as it was mentioned. What is that, Larry, and how far they can go when it comes to this? I would say if they go above these GCC countries, because it's part of the war, then again we're going to get to the back. They're going to hit the targets in these countries because they're using the airspace of GCC countries. If they go above the Persian Gulf, close to the Strait of Hormuz, they're going to get to the area that is more dangerous for these fighter jets. How is that going to work for them?
Well, I mean, that's what they got to keep in mind. Are they trying to escalate this now immediately to hot? I think what I've heard is they're going to wait probably till later this week. The smart move for Trump, in order not to affect the markets adversely, is wait until Friday afternoon, at 4:30, which would be, let's see, 4:30. That's so that'd be about 1 o'clock in the morning in Tehran to start launching, new attacks. I think this is ultimately going to culminate in new airstrikes, even though even Admiral Brad Cooper reportedly in private has advised against it. I think that's where Trump's going to wind up doing that. I think the odds are high this will go kinetic again. Now, my friend Ray McGovern was hopeful that Putin's warning to both Israel and the United States last week will have an effect in keeping them from re-engaging. But I don't think Trump and Bibi were going to listen, and so I think this has the potential really to escalate again.
There are two things, Larry. One of them is the communication that you've mentioned between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. And the other thing is that Donald Trump wants to go to China. He wants to show some sort of, power when he gets there, some sort of, he has some cards in his hand, to play with Xi Jinping. But the problem is that Xi Jinping, I don't know if you saw the latest move on the part of China, it comes to the refineries who are working with Iran. The government in China said, we're supporting you. Go ahead and do your work. Sanctions are not going to influence you because we're backing you. This is the new, it's important, it's bold, and nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, no, it was China's made it very clear. They told the United States, screw off. You're not going to tell us what to do. We're not paying attention to you. I doubt that Trump is going to make that trip to China. In fact, Xi Jinping as well. They've I couldn't believe this when I heard it, but they're reportedly saying that China is banning any receipt of shipments that go through the Panama Canal because the United States has booted the Chinese companies that were managing that. Now, the reason when I heard that, and again, I wanted to see if I can confirm it, but a lot of the goods that are sold out of the Cologne Free Trade Zone come from China. So the question is, how are those goods going to get into the Cologne Free Trade Zone? And a lot of those goods are sold in Central, South America, and the Caribbean. So from that standpoint, that's why I question that report.
Yeah. Here it seems, Larry, the other tanker was attacked close to the UAE. It was reported by the government in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in United Arab Emirates. It says that the tanker belonging to Emirati company ADNOC near the Strait of Hormuz was attacked by 2 drones. And
they said it was empty.
Yeah. Because in this report that I'm reading, they didn't mention that, and maybe that you know better because it wasn't mentioned in this. The other thing, Larry, you look at the surface, that tanker which was seized by the United States under the control of the United States, they're getting back to Iran. The crews are back to Iran, and the United States send that tanker to Pakistan, then go to Iran.
I don't know. I don't know if they take it to Pakistan or to Diego Garcia or wherever. Again, the whole thing about the blockade has been a bit of a myth because the If you're going to stop a vessel, board it, basically seize it, then the standard operating procedure for the U.S. Navy is to put a prize crew on there, so a crew that will run that ship, and then you put a vessel and accompanying U.S. ship to go with that vessel. All right. So how many ships have come out of the Persian Gulf since April 15th? At least 150, all from Iran. Okay, do the math. Does the United States have 150 ships deployed in the Persian Gulf or in the Arabian Sea or Gulf of Oman to interdict? No, they don't. They've only got a fraction of that. So there's no way they can do an actual blockade, what they've been talking about. What they've been doing is just, I'll call it a symbolic blockade. Exists on paper. They can stop a couple of ships, but can't even put a dent in it. And because the United States simply does not have enough ships. And if they, you're going to use either a destroyer or a cruiser to come up alongside to stop a vessel. Well, those destroyers, they are attached to the carrier strike groups for air defense. You pull them off, then the carrier no longer has air defense. So this has not been thought through very well. They haven't provided the resources to implement such a plan.
Yeah, I think the other evidence that somehow, shows that you're right is the new report about the sanctioned Iranian LPG tanker passing through the U.S. Navy blockade. And it's going from the Asaluye. Do you remember that South Pars, oil facility that was targeted during the war?
Right.
And close to that facility, there is a new tanker going there, and and just passing through the Strait of Hormuz and getting out of this Oman, and getting to the I don't know what is the destiny of this tanker, but it seems that they could pass through the blockade, which it shows. I don't know if they're doing this by deliberately, the United States, because of the market, is doing this, or they're just simply they don't know what to do, or they don't have the ability to control all of this.
No, they don't have the ability to control, because look, that ship, when it came out of the Iranian port, I'm sure it sailed, it was say 12 miles offshore, and it just, as it sailed along, it just stayed 12 miles offshore until it gets to its Indian Ocean, or maybe the other side of the Gulf of Oman. But I think they're headed towards the Indian Ocean. The U.S. ships are not going to come within 200 miles of the Iranian coast. If they get in like 180, 150 miles off, they are then in range of Iranian ballistic and cruise missiles and drones. So they're not going to do that. It's too risky, which is the point about all this, that the United States has they're not willing to incur the risk of losing so many ships. But it's not like we got a lot to lose in the first place.
The point that Larry, you look at the Iranian media, the points that they're bringing up, that there is no ceasefire. They don't see any sort of ceasefire. They see that the United States, it's some sort of pause. As they mention it, it's a pause. It's not a ceasefire, because since then, we didn't have the ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel. We didn't have the ceasefire between Iran and the United States with the blockade. And the attack, we had some sort of attacks, American attack on Iranian ships, and Iran responding to that. What is this situation we're in, if you were to define it?
Well, we're in it's like the eye of a hurricane. Okay, the hurricane, the winds, the high winds, the heavy rain, but the eye passes over. You got a momentary peace, but it's not going to last, because you got the backside of that hurricane coming, which is worse, and that's what's getting ready to happen. Israel's struggling to figure out what it's wanting to accomplish in Lebanon, and the Zionist government is just out of control. And so if they now try to expand the war, go back to bombing Iran, Iran's going to turn around and bomb the daylights out of Israel, and it will be bad. And the Israelis will be back to living in bomb shelters like they were for 5 weeks. Israel's been very careful to cover up the amount of damage that was done during those 5 weeks, but you got to be convinced it was far worse than anything they experienced during the 12-day war. And during the 12-day war, there were significant damage done to a variety of facilities and installations, military and industrial, scientific, etc. So this is I think this is going to heat up again, and it's not going to. Perhaps the only thing that will stop it will be an global economic collapse, because I think that is coming. The February 28th essentially lit the fuse on a bomb, and the fuse burns and burns and burns and burns, and then finally, when it gets finishes its course, it explodes, and it comes relatively suddenly. And I think that's exactly what we're going to see. I'm starting to see that with the oil market. Oil market is now tightening again, despite Trump's best efforts to claim, we got peace. And, I was looking, the Brent was up now to 111, 112. So, this starts having a cascading effect because it raises the prices on everything.